50 seconds. T-minus 40 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Woo! Happy Monday, y'all. I really almost about to say Friday. Happy Monday, y'all. Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. This is WWT Live, the Monday edition. My name is TK Trinidad, and I'm not alone. The professor is in the building. I still haven't seen the movie.
Oh, wow.
There's too many people that are taking, and I'm glad they did. So on top of being a punk when watching scary movies, I have to be in a certain mood to watch emotional movies. And I've seen too many people literally videotape themselves leaving either midway through or after the movie crying. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that at the moment. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, because I'm there's a word for it.
You're an
empath. Yes.
Yes.
And so I'm very particular on trust. I'm not that guarded with everything, but I have to be in a certain phase to handle it. It's just kind of so I want to watch it, but there's too many people crying. I can't do this right now. I'm trying to get this money, try to end this year out right. I can't do these tears right now. It's too many people crying. Too many emotions out there. I'm good for now.
I won't spoil the movie for you, but I do understand why there was great emotion. Now, I've not seen people, with tears on my timeline. However, I will say that people at least have been kind on my timeline to try to save the spoilers for, a certain day of the week.
For me.
But I will say it was an amazing movie. I can tell you why it was emotional, because it really was all of our first real opportunity to actually in a public forum deal with the passing of Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa, and the way it was masterfully dealt with in this movie. It was a work of art. It was an absolute work of art. So that's why it was emotional from that perspective. And a lot of things happened, trying to watch them rebuild, et cetera, et cetera. And I've given nothing away. So that's,
look, you're talking to a girl who reads the end of the book sometimes to get to get it. It's that's how emotional I get. If it hits a peak where it's I need to know these people are dying, I am going to read the last chapter. All right, cool. I am now okay. And then I'll go back to where I stopped and then just continue reading. I did that with Harry Potter. I
really.
Oh yeah. They tried to every book for those people who haven't read Harry Potter or watched the movie, because I literally did this last year, so I'm way behind. Every book they've been trying to kill this little boy. Every single book. And so I came at the end of the year, I was in a dark place and I couldn't figure out why, I felt a certain way. And then because I read them back to back. And then I was like, is these damn books? I was like, I can't. I can't.
That explains it. That explains it. Wow.
Anyways,
well, we continue on our journey learning more new things about each other, which is just wonderful.
There it is.
But yeah.
So we're gonna start with our first segment.
Oh yeah.
Oh, why is there no volume?
Off the top rope.
There
what
it
do we
is.
have?
All right. So one of the big stories we had coming out of last week was this whole war going on really between Nick Aldis, the NWA, Billy Corgan. And so last week, Nick Aldis had, gone on his subscription-based Instagram to tell people that he had given his notice, but he didn't know how to do it. So it ended up going public. The NWA didn't like some of what he said. So they suspended him indefinitely. He was supposed to be on the pay-per-view this weekend, which we might get to. But what happened over the weekend was his first major interview that he did with Sam Roberts on the Not Sam Wrestling podcast, where he's talked in depth about why he chose to leave the NWA. And so there's a few things coming out of this that I think are important. For one, when he gave his notice, he actually wasn't breaking his contract. He's currently part of a 1-year deal. And in that 1-year deal, it was structured in such a way where if he was going to not renew the deal, that he had to give them 60 days notice. And so the first day he could do that was November the 2nd. So he is well within his rights to do what he's doing to leave the NWA. So there's that. In terms of why he left the he's leaving the NWA, he talked very much about how the product today is not the product that he had worked so hard to build over these last years in the rebirth of the NWA. He talked about how he was able to convince Harley Race, who, of course, 7-time NWA champion. Harley Race, oddly enough, did not want anything to do with the NWA until Nick Aldis started building the company into something that he felt like Harley Race would be proud of. And so he talks about on the podcast, looking at the current state of the NWA and the social distancing matches and folks like Gags the Gimp and all of these other folks. And he said, what would Harley Race think about this product? And he says it doesn't pass the Harley Race test. So that coupled with a number of issues that he has with Billy Corgan, again, surrounding the direction of the NWA, which he believed really began to take a turn back at NWA 73. Those are all of the reasons why he has chosen to part ways as the guy who really has been the face of the modern face of the NWA brand since its relaunch in 2017. He also talked about, or at least Sam Roberts tried to figure out where he could be going. He would not say, but you could kind of gain from all inferences and how much he talked about certain people on that show that he's got interest to go to the WWE.
Well, there's a couple questions here. One, do you think that, because he also mentioned that in the interview that it felt like Billy Corgan was making a product for Billy Corgan.
Correct.
So the question here now is, do you think that somebody who's a fan of wrestling can really be, because we're seeing different examples of it, and also other examples, one of them or both of them are in the box. Other examples that got booted out. Do you think somebody who's a wrestling fan and hasn't wrestled can actually have a great promotion?
That is a really tough question. And I think it's possible, but I think the thing is they have to have people around them that hold them accountable. Meaning you need people around you that can see the things that you can't. If you get totally caught up in what you believe the product should be and not compare that to what do the numbers say, not compare that to what do the fans actually want, then it does become solely your vision, and then it rises or falls solely on the strength of that. I think you need people that are strong, folks who are either directly involved in the wrestling industry, they know the psychology of pro wrestling, they can analyze what's actually happening to determine if your product makes sense. I mean, we think about the difference in what the NWA presented to say 2019 or so with the launch of Power, where that was kind of a really refreshing take on pro wrestling. It was designed to be minimalistic in its production, a bit of a throwback to the old NWA, yet great wrestling action. People loved that. They were responding to that. And then coming out of the pandemic, things really changed for the NWA. So I think you can be a wrestling fan. I think you need to like the sport for sure, to be able to have a great promotion. But I think you need people around you who can fill in the holes and the gaps that you're not able to fill solely as a fan.
And then also in the chat, so shout out to Ron, who's in the chat. And then Wilson saying, I still like NWA, but it's not as good as it was just a couple of years ago. So, I mean, that's exactly what Nick was saying. So,
yeah. That's what Nick was saying. Nick was saying that the numbers have shown that, the audience has kind of moved away from the product and they're not showing up as strongly as they once did, which you can look at the crowds for that. You can look at the chatter for that. All of those things make sense, so it's interesting. And then a look at the pay-per-view this weekend only furthers what Nick Aldis actually had to say. Tyrus, the new NWA world champion. And, granted, yes, we've seen people who can progress. We've seen Matt Cardona is a great example of somebody who left the WWE and left that persona behind and became kind of a really, really important worker where we went, yeah, we believe in Matt Cardona. I'm not sure that fans really believe in Tyrus as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, to me, they've done all of this work, and you have to, obviously lay a lot of this on the shoulders of Nick Aldis to bring prestige once again to that championship, to make it a title that's mentioned amongst the rest of the world titles out there, and to have Tyrus, like I just
why are you saying his name like that?
you know what? Because
let me get my notebook because I need to clip out that time. I need to write down that time and clip it out.
I mean, I don't want to be ill, right? And but I watched the match. I watched, the whole thing go down. It was certainly a shorter title match than I expected. We've seen much longer world title matches before, but I mean, and it's not even. I can dismiss the whole Brodus Clay era, the whole Funkasaurus era. I can dismiss all of that. I'm talking specifically about what his current in-ring work is now. He doesn't move very much. Like he's just a big guy, right? And so, Tyrus? I'm just the NWA World Championship with 100-year legacy, right? Ric Flair, Harley Race, Ricky Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, throw all these names in there, go through the TNA area, all of these people. But Tyrus is your NWA. We went from Nick Aldis to Tyrus. Congratulations, Tyrus, the new NWA World Champion.
I mean, you never, I'm always about playing the devil advocate.
Yes,
you never know.
Yes.
Maybe things will change. People change. Maybe he'll get a little bit more, more fluid in his movements.
Well,
or character-wise, people will believe in him.
It's been almost a decade since his run in the WWE. And, certainly when you are taller, larger, and older, and this is not a knock, this is just biology, your knees sometimes don't function the way the rest of your body doesn't necessarily function as fluidly. And he was never a guy who was like super agile. You're not going to see him come off the top rope. And I'm not looking for that. But if you're going to be a monster, be a monster that's more than a, stationary monster. He doesn't move very fast. He doesn't walk very fast. Like Undertaker, for instance. Undertaker, he was very deliberate in his movements, but he could turn it on at a dime, and he could go 30 minutes if it required that. This title match, I don't think it certainly didn't go 15 minutes. That's for sure. And I'm just going, make it make sense. Tyrus.
Well, I can't remember Santana. Santana's in the chat. I can't remember if you said you were at the match. So let me I mean, there she is.
Can he?
Oh. 450.
Okay. Oh, I think is she laughing at Tyrus can do a 450 splash, or is she saying he can actually do a 450 splash?
Well, let us know, Santana, if you were at the match, what your feelings were on that. But yeah, she said she was there. So how did you like the match? Or do you just want to come on if you have time? You can just come on the show. The link, you know how to get here.
Yeah, I would love to hear what Santana has to say about that adds because what I'm interested in is looking at that crowd last night. Obviously they went to the New Orleans area, which again, you know, for a promotion that has been based in both Atlanta and Nashville, that's certainly a trip for them. It didn't look sold out. Now, perhaps Santana could tell me, but looking at that venue, it did not look sold out. So there's that. Right. The staging in terms of production for the NWA is very minimalistic. There were no screens or anything like that from a production perspective. So nothing there. It's very, I'm almost speechless. I'm trying to find the words that, you know, make it make sense. But that card, Hard Times 3, I don't know. Maybe it is prophetic. Maybe it is hard times for the NWA. I'm not trying to be ill. I'm just saying the guy. Now, here's the thing. Think about the responsibility that a world champion has. They obviously run the brand. Santana is here.
She's in the building. Hold on. Thank you for joining.
Hey. Thank you for having me. Okay. So I was there. I was at both nights for Hard Times 3 and the Revolution Rumble, which is the Wildcat Sports promotion thing in conjunction with NWA. So being there, well, it was nice. It was a very interesting crowd. Never been to an NWA show in my life, but this is my first time going, and I definitely enjoyed myself for the most part. Okay. When Tyrus won, it was like mixed emotions. Some people were happy. Some people was like, "F you, Tyrus. You need to retire. Go back to Fox News." Like it was a lot of that happening. Is he
still on Fox though?
Yeah, he was before the show. He was recently on Fox News. He was doing an interview, I guess, talking about NWA and all things like that. I personally wanted Matt Cardona to win because for me, I feel like Matt would have done he's a great candidate for being champion. I didn't want Trevor Murdoch to retain because why would I want someone who sit here and tell me that NWA women have a style of wrestling when half of these women wrestle on the indies anyway, you know? So I mean, necessarily, what is the NWA style of wrestling? So, Mickey James was not there. Unfortunately, she was not.
I think too. She's not
necessarily signed with NWA. She doesn't really have a good relationship with them either.
Since Empower, there's been like some issues. So seeing the whole everything that went down, do you think where do you think NWA is going to end up? Do you think it's going to just
there's gonna have to be some changes made, honestly. Like for that to be my first show, I'm not gonna say it was bad because half of the people I did not know. But they do have some really nice talent there. I just feel like the way that they go about handling things can really run their company into the ground. You know what I'm saying? If you're reacting off of emotions, or if you're saying these things about your women wrestlers that you have here in this company, you know, and putting someone like Tyrus as champion, despite all of the other allegations that he have against him and just his personality and him, period, I think was a terrible decision. But he did imply and say that from now on, the way that main events were going that way, he's going to continue to do things like that. And I'm like, yeah, that was my first and last time. I definitely enjoyed it. It was cool, but I probably would not go back.
It's so crazy because I did the Empower and NWA in St. Louis, I think like 2 years ago, and it was like night and day. Because the Empower, it was Mickey James was heading it, Jazz was there, Medusa, they were all helping to create that part of it. And then the next day was NWA, and it was like night and day. Like I literally, it started, and I was like, I'm just gonna go downstairs and edit these videos right quick. Like that's how night, like. And then the thing is, for Empower, everybody was standing up, everyone's involved. There were some women that I didn't know, but it's still storytelling. You didn't necessarily have to know who it was, like you got where they were placed. So yeah, I definitely believe it. And then we've all witnessed Billy Corgan, which I don't know, Santana, if you want to stay for our heel of the day. So
sure. I'm already here. Might as well.
Sure. I don't know. You're a busy woman. So I just say, I didn't want to, I didn't want to assume.
Well, I'm kind of on the clock right now, but
hey,
I'm about to get off anyway. So
look, we are all on the clock. If you all only knew. Anywho, heel of the day.
Heel of the day!
Who do we got?
So on the heels of NWA Hard Times 3, our new world champion Tyrus, the great Billy Corgan, has gone on yet another podcast. And on this podcast, which is called Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw, he said some very interesting things, as he seems to do with every podcast or radio interview he does. And one of the things that he said was he made comparisons to Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley versus, say, a Matt Cardona and Tyrus. Here's the exact quote. He says, "I still believe in Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. In this upcoming main event, Matt Cardona versus Tyrus versus Trevor Murdoch, I want to see that match. If you don't want to see stuff like that, don't watch the NWA. Because that's what I'm going to give you more and more of that." Yeah, he goes on to talk about, he wants the toughest people to be champion, and he means that for the women as well. Here's what he said. This is great. "I make the argument we probably have the toughest women in the business right now. I love it. I love women who can be strong, beautiful, and vicious. I think that's a beautiful combination. With the men, I want the meanest, toughest elephants in the middle of the room. And if you can't hang, then go and press somebody somewhere else." I gotta tell you, this is special. This is really, really special. And so what he basically said, it's funny, Santana, who was there, has said this. Someone else in the chat has mentioned that the NWA product today is nothing like what the NWA product was just a couple of years ago. If the fans are saying they don't like it, but yet you say, hey, this is what I'm going to give you, take it or leave it. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Well, I think the fans actually did that before you told them to. But now that you've told them to and trying to build an actual wrestling company where, guess what? You're going to need people who like things more than you. Billy Corgan, once again, you, sir, are the heel of the day.
Heel of the day!
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
Well, again, Devil's advocate.
Come on, Devil's advocate.
Here's the thing. If Billy Corgan has the money and he doesn't mind, because clearly it's kind of like the example of, remember when you were a kid and your mom cooked you something that you wasn't feeling, but you weren't old enough to cook anything, and she's like, look, this is what it is. You can eat or not eat. And at the end of the day, if you chose not to eat, that's fine. It's not like we can go and get a job and do it. Like, we were a child. And I feel like with this, if he feels like he's making it to a certain audience and we don't want to watch, and he doesn't mind losing that money, it's his company, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yes, we can all say it's terrible and we just choose not to watch. Like, it's just like we were talking about Dave Chappelle and SNL and stuff like that. For people who were offended, it's not like Dave Chappelle just first came on the scene. Like, we know what he's about. So if you didn't want to be offended, then just don't watch. Then don't just watch Dave Chappelle. That's the reason I haven't watched Black Panther. We'll just circle it all the way back to the beginning. But it's just kind of like, you know, we don't necessarily agree with him, but it's his company. And
well, and to that end, yes, it is his company. The difference between that analogy and this is we aren't kids. See, as kids, we would starve if we didn't eat what our parents gave. My son goes through that right now. He doesn't want to eat. Okay, well, you can wake up hungry, sir, or you can eat this food we're providing for you. But see, the problem here is we're full-grown adults who can make obvious choices with both our time and our money. So if you are going to ostracize the people who are going to ultimately pay the paychecks of these wrestlers, you throw us away, it's going to be much harder for one to rent larger buildings to be able to have people apply their craft. And one of the things that Nick Aldis said, which I thought was amazing, was, you know, you kind of get tired of performing for 100 people. You want to perform for a larger audience. So we're seeing wrestlers leave the NWA. I mean, we started seeing it before the pandemic. Ricky Starks, you know, we saw several others who were Thunder Rosa, Stu Bennett, Max Dupree, like all these people who left the NWA because they wanted to apply what they were doing on a larger stage. You can't get a larger stage if you ostracize the people who make the demand for a larger stage. So you can have all the money in the world, right? But if you decide to rent out Madison,
the wrestlers are gone.
That part. If the wrestlers are gone, you'll have a wrestling company with no wrestlers. Then you'll have a true social distancing match and social distancing company, right? So I think he's got to be really, really careful making statements like that, because that doesn't endear themselves to fans who nowadays can tweet that, can repost that. It's going to live in infamy forever. And they'll go, hey, I don't like it. Or they could say like Santana, hey, I went to one experience and once was enough. I'm good. There's enough wrestling products out there that we don't have to pay attention to the NWA. It's not a necessity anymore, you know? So that is the thing. And I think he could be shooting himself in the foot. Again, I pay close attention when the people who put their brand on their shoulders, like a Nick Aldis, like a Cody Rhodes, when the face of the brand decides to leave the brand, you need to pay very close attention, because nobody was dialed in more to the NWA than Nick Aldis. And for Nick Aldis, and I mean, and to hear Nick Aldis in this interview say that he was editing elements of the 10 pounds of gold and not getting paid for it. Anybody who does video editing knows that that's work. That's a lot of work. Okay. to not get paid for it. And then to still be mistreated, I think that's bad business. And so, you know, again, all of these wrestlers have options. They have options. TK, you talk a lot about what happens when you get that TV money. Listen, any of them get on TV at this point, they're already going to be making more money than they were in the NWA. Hands down. They could sit in catering and make more money than they do putting their body on the line in the NWA. So I think he's made a massive mistake with this kind of statement, and the fans are very soon going to stand up and place their votes and say, hey, we don't want this. You know, we don't want this.
Well, we are going to attempt to put Billy back in the box.
I just love that.
You know, a lot of times I'm in the audience, like watching this video here. And
so now you feel the video, like now you in it. Now you in it.
I want to know who found that video.
That was me.
You should go to jail, because why do you have a video like that? Where did you find this at? Like, were you just searching for suggestion box?
I was literally just suggesting, because we kept talking about putting it in the box. And the first video I thought of was Justin Timberlake, dick in a box, but it didn't quite make sense. So I just said, let me just YouTube search it. And, we were just talking about editing. Editing takes a long time. I know how to edit. I don't like editing, and I like to do things quick and fast. So I saw that video. I'm like, boom, 6 minutes, boom, cut, 30 seconds, boom, there we are. So that is, and then when I played it the first time, the professor went crazy. I was like, we got a winner. And then see, we still have a winner because the professor is smiling and you look displeased. There's emotions either way. So it's a win-win.
The amount of time that you took explaining that to me, you could be going to prison right now. Like, you could be wearing the same color that I'm wearing right now, orange, getting your fingerprint and doing your mug shot. And eating whatever they got on the menu before y'all have shut down. So,
that's hilarious. Good
damn. So we're going to put those thoughts, Santana.
Yes.
Wow. Everybody putting a petition to send TK.
This is so good to me.
Wow.
Oh,
what do we got? What do we got next?
Well, we go from promotions that could be on their last legs to a promotion that will be joining us in 2023 as Kevin Kelly, who spent quite a bit of time in WWE and is right now the voice for New Japan Pro Wrestling on the English side, has announced a brand new promotion that's coming top of 2023. It's called American Excellence Wrestling, also known as AXW. So the inaugural event will take place on January the 7th in Hamburg, Pennsylvania at the historic Hamburg Fieldhouse. That'll be just 3 days after Wrestle Kingdom 17. So he's confirmed that he has a financial stake in this promotion. And he also said that he's hoping to do some podcasts about the promotion to talk about how it started, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, another promotion coming to pro wrestling top of 2023. Again, having Kevin Kelly involved is interesting to me. I'd like to see if in any way this impacts his standing with New Japan Pro Wrestling, or if this is just kind of another cool venture for him. What will AXW do differently than all of the other promotions out there? Or will it just be another place for people to land? I don't know, but I like the sound of it, and I'm intrigued to see what will happen. So January the 7th, the start of AXW.
Multiple streams of income, wrestlers getting money.
Yeah, we like money.
You can't go wrong.
Why does that have to be American though? Why is it gonna be excellent wrestling? Why do it gotta be American excellent wrestling? Like,
I mean, no offense to Americans, but y'all think you're the best.
Who was y'all?
Americans.
I am from another country.
Which country is that?
Oh, well, Gerard, I travel around the world, so many different places. So, I never really stay in one place, but America's where I live right now. But here we go. I love it. It's very, very interesting here.
How you gonna come on the show for the first time and get the what? Like that's pretty impressive. Like, you know what?
That is quite impressive.
Never be treated like
that's bravo. Like that was.
Thank you. Not too many people can do it like me.
That accent came out of nowhere.
Oh, you have to watch their Impact show. It's quite entertaining.
Oh wow!
Watch the Impact after show with Santana and Nikki because they go on a whole thing.
We did a whole show in the accents.
Gosh, that is hilarious. Well, now I know. Boy.
You will never know. You will never know what my real voice sounds like.
Oh my gosh!
There's no telling if this is how my real voice is.
Wow! Wow! Who needs Google Translator?
Let me
mark that one down.
Mark that one down too.
Jeez, what in the world? Good gracious!
Impressive. Oh, I forgot to download that thing. Hold on. That will lead us to our new segment.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Here we go. Segment? Am I here for the debut of a new segment?
No, this is
Pidge Wrestling Facts. Yeah.
Who is doing these audios?
Look, we at WWT we make a lot of money. You know that, Santana, because you're not getting paid anything, and I'm not getting paid anything. So we invest a lot of money in these drops.
Go ahead and add them to the going to jail collection side of things because
I don't think I've ever been this weak on this show. This is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well,
all right.
Well, all right. Vintage wrestling facts. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Can't get myself together. All right, so let's go back.
Wow.
Wow.
Sammy, really, Sammy? Okay, where is the corporate?
Yeesh.
So
you had a chance to stay in the meeting, but you missed out the opportunity. You have to wait another year. What do we got?
Well, we can go back to this day in 1999. Again, the month of November marks Survivor Series, of course, in WWE history. This particular Survivor Series had a lot of very interesting spaces in it. First of all, it was called obviously Survivor Series, no special names attached. It was 2 years after the Montreal Screwjob. And so the question would be kind of how often are we recreating it? It was recreated, of course, in 98, where The Rock became the world champion. 99, they went a bit of a different route. So there was supposed to be in the main event a triple threat match for the WWF title between Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock. However, Stone Cold was not able to participate because at this particular event was the infamous Stone Cold getting hit by a car, taking him out of action, and that ultimately led to the mystery, the whodunit. Who in the world hit Stone Cold Steve Austin? We would later find out that, of course, it was Rikishi who did it for The Rock. And when he did it for The Rock, caused the whole thing, and that was quite crazy. So Stone Cold's replacement that night would be The Big Show. So The Big Show getting a world title match against, of all people, Triple H and The Rock, and The Big Show would end up winning the WWF Championship, his first WWF World title win. Happens at the 1999 Survivor Series. Another thing that happened that was really significant was the in-ring debut of Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle debuted at the 1999 Survivor Series. Nobody really remembers the match because he defeated Shawn Stasiak, and who remembers Shawn Stasiak, right? But Kurt Angle obviously went on to have an absolutely incredible career in the WWE. By the time we roll around to WrestleMania 2000, which is less than 6 months later, he's holding 2 championships, the European title and the Intercontinental title as well. So that was incredible. Also, this particular Survivor Series, speaking of the Intercontinental Championship, it saw an intergender match for the Intercontinental title. Things we don't see anymore in WWE. As China, who was the Intercontinental Champion, went in and defeated Chris Jericho at the Survivor Series. Can you imagine something like that happening in 2022? WWE? Yeah, in the independent space, but WWE won't let it happen. But yeah, this was happening. This was the way of the world in 1999, and all that happened at the Survivor Series on this day in 1999. Now, the other big news item, which is a much sadder one, is on this day in 2005, Monday Night Raw paid an emotional tribute to Eddie Guerrero, who had passed away the day before. So yes, yesterday marked the, what is it now? 17, golly, it's been 17 years. 17 years since the passing of Eddie Guerrero, who died in a hotel room in Minneapolis. So it was really one of the first times that we got to see the WWE kind of in mourning. The first time we really did was back in 99 with the death of Owen Hart. So it had been a while since we had seen these live emotional tribute shows, but this one really caught a lot of people off guard. Very emotional night there for the WWE, but it also contained a little bit of history as well, as it was the only singles match that night between two WWE legends, as Shawn Michaels and Rey Mysterio battled for the first and only time on that particular show on this day in 2005.
Well, thank you. That is our not so new segment.
Tidge Wrestling Facts. Yeah.
Now I know.
I need to I want to, when we have the budget, just put Santana in, just have her on the screen and just record her just watching random stuff just for the facial. We used to have oh my god, who used to do? He was from AfterBuzz. He's in Australia. He used to do all the gifts for us. I need to just hit him back and just say, hey, can you? Because Santana's face is some of these stuff.
Her faces are priceless.
They are priceless. Hey, hey, Ronnie, how are you doing? Another person from AfterBuzz chiming in. But yeah, that is our vintage wrestling facts, courtesy of Kay McCoy. What do we have next?
So from that, we go to kind of a more sad news, unfortunately. Kevin Owens, who many felt like was kind of sidelined from what would have been a main event picture because of the overwhelming popularity of Sami Zayn, apparently has suffered an injury. It happened last night where he was taking on Theory. And in this match, apparently he banged up his knee, suffered some sort of injury there. He was helped to the back after the match. And it's believed that he's dealing with an MCL sprain, according to the Wrestling Observer. And some fear that the injury could be worse. It happened when he planted his knee, and his concerned reaction made it very, very clear that something was not right. Now, he's not actually wrestled on WWE television since September the 30th. I didn't realize it had been that long. But yeah, it's been that long since we've seen Kevin Owens in a WWE ring on television. So I would imagine very soon we'd be hearing more about this on WWE. My thought was he might be the fifth man in the tag team for War Games to fight the Bloodline, since they are in need of a fifth member. And that kind of makes sense given all of the things he was dropping before about Roman and the Bloodline. But if this knee injury is indeed a thing, that would certainly put War Games out of the question for him. And he would have been great. Obviously, he has War Games experience, participating in one of the recent War Games back in NXT. So certainly thoughts and prayers for a speedy recovery for Kevin Owens.
Yeah, that's awful, because he just came back last night, you know what I'm saying, and to be injured, saying that he's supposed to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, that does kick him out of the War Games conversation. So now it's like, okay, well, who else is going to pop up to, join the opposing team to take on the Bloodline that has, some issues with all of them? It could be me, who knows? But you just
throw back to Survivor Series 99. I get it.
There you go. So, I mean, I love what TK. Listen, I know you got your Samoan dynasty going on here. Look, this photo already propped up and ready. I
mean, she said the words and boom.
I know you got your dynasty and thing going on, but if I had to take all of them out, it is what it is.
All of them. All of them. Okay.
Starting with y'all favorite head of the table. But I would sell a spear and give one.
Wow.
But I give a mean neck breaker. I tell you what, don't play with me.
Professor's gonna be like, first Stephanie's threatening to beat up people, and now Santana come out here. Right. And he's like, what type of company you run?
I've been
what type of company you run?
Anybody can get these hands. Okay, they for everybody.
Wow.
But for Kevin, he's one of my faves. I mean, he hasn't wrestled that much, and it's always nice to see him in the ring. It's always nice to see him on TV, whether he's in a feud or hosting a KO show and different things like that. So I hope he does have a speedy recovery. And maybe, Royal Rumble is around the way, so he could pop up there along with all the other people who are on the injury list currently as of right now.
Yeah, the good thing with Kevin Owens, and even like we talked about it with Sammy, is that Kevin Owens, like for the time he takes off, he figures out a way to fit himself in when he comes back. Like there's always some type of story angle. Some of them work better than others, but there's always something that he's working on. I don't know if it's just because he's been with the company for a long time, so they give him a little bit more freedom, or he just comes up with just really great ideas. I don't know which one it is, but for some reason, him and Sammy, like they be they're for how long they've been in the company and how many, like I wish they almost put, and I'm sure this exists somewhere, like side by side profiles of the different characters that they played throughout their career. Like it's just there's just so different. That it's he's injured and definitely it's never a good case, but that's like one person you don't need to worry about when he comes back, opposed to some people, they come back and you're just like, oh, they back already, like, oh, I still haven't seen them for another 6 months because they can't there's no storyline. So good for him. What do we have next?
Well, congratulations are officially in order after last Friday. Today marks day number 484 for the Usos as the WWE Tag Team Champions. Absolutely. After that incredible match Friday night, which I kind of laid out a theory in terms of how they could lose the titles. My theory was thwarted because Sami Zayn wasn't present Friday night, which kind of, dovetailed all of that. But today is day 484 for the Usos, which makes them the official longest reigning tag team champions in all of WWE history. An amazing feat. What an incredible match they had with the New Day Friday night, which could have gone either. Matches. Oh my gosh, it was just incredible. And I think we all thought that at some point the New Day could have actually won that tag team title match, which would have made a lot of sense. It didn't happen. So now the Usos are the men. And I guess you could really make the argument that perhaps they are indeed the greatest tag team of all time in WWE. Certainly the longest reigning champions. And they've been fighting champions. So can't really argue that particular point. 2 title defenses in the last week alone. So what's next for them? I don't know. And who ultimately ends their reign? No clue. I don't see a team right now who could do it. I mean, they've got to catch them on a really off night. And unfortunately, they've been really, really on. So kudos to the Usos, longest reigning tag champions in WWE history.
Any words, Santana?
I know hitting them with all this bloodline stuff is just like...
absolutely not. They not touching nothing, okay? Hit roll can hit the door because they're not touching absolutely nothing. Cancel that. I don't know why I don't even know why you keep bringing these people up in the first place. No, absolutely not. No, if they beat the Usos, I will beat you. Because why would you even try to put that in somebody's stall to think that the Usos and Hit Row will have a good match when neither can Top Dollar nor Ashante the Adonis even keep up with them or anybody else? Wow. They barely making it with Legado de Fantasma.
Just in case you didn't know, Professor, Sammy is one of our writers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And they just got knocked out by the Viking Raiders for the 30th time. Every time they come back and make a return. How many times B-Fab and Top Dollar and Ashante gonna get beat up by people that's returning?
Well,
and you expect me to believe them that they gonna ever be tag team champions? They're not even an actual faction. They're just a bunch of City Trends rejects coming up in here. Just get out. I don't want to get that.
Wow.
Anyway, back to the bloodline wise.
I don't even have I was looking for a drop. I don't even have a drop for that.
Wow.
Oh, I do, but I do. I just found one.
Yeah.
But I do like the Usos. I've always been a fan of the Usos. I always say that somewhere around this time of the year, we always end up getting, New Day and Usos. Before the new year comes along, we're gonna get the New Day and the Usos. And I don't feel like the Usos could have faced anyone else when it comes to like going over the longest reign, other than the ones who are carrying the longest reign. So it sucks that they could have done something, they could have won, but girl, boy, you can call corporate all day. They didn't listen. You already got blocked. Okay, so but yeah, I enjoy watching the Usos and the New Day have a match. I don't care. I feel like they have how I grew up looking at Matt and Jeff, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, is how I look at now the Usos and the New Day. Their feud will always be top tier, no matter how many matches that they've had or anything like that. I always feel like their feud is like, when it comes time to being inducted into the Hall of Fame, they're gonna be the ones to induct each other. And it's only right and fitting because they've had one of the greatest feuds of the modern day tag team division. And a lot of times you don't see that. And for these to be, well, do we consider the Usos to be black? I believe they are. They may seem Samoan, but I don't know.
It's I mean, yes and no. But how they
but
how they interact.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the POC. You know, it's nice to see that because we don't see that often, especially in WWEs. So I thoroughly enjoy it, and I don't know, whoever takes their titles, I'm rooting for you. I like the Usos, but just like y'all cousin, it's time to drop.
Well, and I will agree with you in this regard, Santana. I love seeing tag team rivalries, and you know, sometimes people try to orchestrate them, but the ones that are the most organic are the ones that we love the most, you know. And so you mentioned obviously Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, the Hardys, all of those, you know, the rivalry that we're seeing, the natural rivalry between the New Day and the Usos is one of those things that I think goes down in wrestling history books among the greatest tag team rivalries of all time. I think that is very safe to say. And given the modern era of tag team wrestling, that there seems to be more concentration on movesets than rivalries, this one really stands out because you have two amazing tag teams that have years in this game fighting each other. And I think it's fantastic. So shout out to them. And I don't know who the next great rivalry will be, but I could see these teams fighting some more, and I'd be totally fine with it.
I think the problem is too, and we've talked about this before, is that they're not really building tag teams. And it's either through the fault of the company and or the fault of, you know, wrestlers, because, you know, you have people who they want to be the number one. And I get it. Obviously, when you come in a package, there's so many things that can go wrong. But when you're running, that's why I chose track. When you're running by yourself, you only can rely on yourself. I got myself the scholarship, all that other stuff. But when you rely on the team sucks. There's only so much you can do. But with that being said, they're not really, you know, can you really name, I think somebody named RK Bro. I mean, they grew up for me, they grew on me, but they're still, you know, they're at the very beginning, it kind of didn't make sense. So it's just like, how many tag teams can we think of that, like, it's like a legit, like Street Profits, but the Street Profits are talking about breaking up.
Yeah,
you know,
and we haven't seen them on TV in a while.
Well, Montez is injured, so he's injured. Montez is currently injured right now. I think he has a foot injury because the last time we saw him, he did have a boot on, which is the reason why he wasn't, you know, hasn't really been in the ring. We'll see more of Dawkins, which we haven't really seen Dawkins either. So I guess maybe they're waiting until, you know, Montez get back better, and then you know, find their way out there. But I do agree with JD in regards to like those being the two tag teams. They're to me, they've been the longest tag team since they, you know, well, since the Usos pretty much came and since the New Day pretty much got together. Whether it's two of them or three of them, they've been the longest like tag team or like faction or whatever that we've seen in a very, very long time. You know, we get all these individual like single competitors be tagged together and then they split up because somebody turns on somebody, you know, whether it's like the New Day and the Usos, there's no turn on each other. They've been with each other for the longest. Whether they were split up or whether Usos never been split up, but that time when Jimmy was injured, but nonetheless it was still, you thought of the Usos, you think of the New Day, you know. So I don't know. I'm rooting for the Brawling Brutes, you know. They had the opportunity,
Well,
and they really did. And honestly, even within those 2 matches that they had, it was really good. Honestly, it was really, really good. I thought maybe a crown jewel they was going to take it home to go, but then unfortunately turned out that way. But now that they've got some situations going on here, hopefully somewhere down the line that happens.
Hopefully, we'll see. I wanted to say, who do we think? Do we think? And again, this is another put it in the box question. Do we think that the Usos will retain the tag team championship until Roman Reigns loses his? Like, do you think they're all going to lose it around the same time, or do you think it's going to be a domino effect?
It could be a domino effect. I feel like it starts with the Usos because although Sammy, we haven't seen him in a minute, but there's still some tension still flying between him and Jay. We know that for a fact. And however it happens, it could happen. They kind of put it to the side as of right now, but it's still there.
There has to be a payoff.
It could start off with the Usos losing their titles to whoever team that they're facing. And then it could trickle on down to Roman losing his, however he loses it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be a domino too, but I also just thought about, as you mentioned, Sammy, he's involved in this World Cup and he's supposed to be in there next week or this coming Friday since he's back from his personal issue. So you could conceivably have a moment where Sammy wins this, ends up fighting, Gunther, and somehow comes out with the IC title, and then they've got everything, and then they ride with that for a minute, and with that, either Sammy or the Usos will be the first to drop, which I think that will start the domino in terms of who the weak link is. And but I don't know how long that's going to be. I mean, this thing right now, you think you're getting tired of it, and then Sammy does something, and you're like, oh my God, we love him, and and so this thing gets more and more legs to it. So I don't know. It is, and then we haven't talked about Solo either. Solo's got to get some gold too. So if Solo somehow grabs the US title and then they literally bring everything to them, we've got a situation.
And then Naomi shows up.
Precisely.
A terrible situation because it's like now you have everybody holding the gold, and now it's like, well, everything's on SmackDown. What the hell does Raw have? Bianca Belair, obviously, and that's it. Maybe she can take out the bloodline or something.
Yeah, that definitely paints himself into a corner. But I mean, Triple H has been doing great thus far, so hopefully he does have a plan. Maybe he strips the Usos of at least one or something. I don't know. Hopefully we'll see what happens. But with that being said, we literally have another show coming up like right now. So for you guys who are watching, keep staying tuned to this channel. But before we get out of here, our new guest co-host, Miss Santana, dropping some gems and dropping bodies. Apparently, where can everybody find you?
Google. That's where you can find me. Google Google me. DRIUNE. That's where you're gonna always find me.
Wow.
I say this on every show. I never give out my socials. They Google. Find me there if you want to know where I'm at.
There it is.
All right.
There it is.
Professor.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, I said Drion Santana. You type in just Santana, you're going to find Carlos Santana. That's not me. Okay.
They might even find Tito Santana. Hall of Famer.
Wow.
Like, who knows? Well, you could find me, of course, at Bonafide on all of the socials. Big Battle Slam news dropping this week. In fact, a big piece of news dropped today about our next show on November 27th. So you guys can check that out. The last show, Thriller, will be on Fight very soon. We should know that probably by tomorrow. So that should be fun. And Southern Honor, Nightmare Factory, CDW, all those cool things. Just check me out at Bonafide and ProWrestlingTees.com/Bonafide for all merch.
Booked and busy. That is the way. Multiple streams of income. Make sure to check out our website. What Sandana didn't tell you, she's the editor-in-chief of WWTalkPod.com. So you can go and check out the website where all those where all those there might be new people. You just never know.
But if you Google those articles, you will find that. You Google Dreon Santana, you would see that it says editor-in-chief of Women's.
See, TK will say that that's giving people an extra step, and they may or may not do that.
I feel like it's giving them a great way to use Google, because sometimes people don't utilize it when they ask questions about things that's Google. So,
whew, I want to see you with some kids. All right, so make sure you check out the website, WWTalkPod.com. Check out us on all social media platforms at WWTalkPod. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. Thank you guys so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. You will see us on Wednesday. Till next time, guys. Ciao.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.